Welcome to Biohacking for the Executive Athlete, where high performance meets deep recovery and ambition is powered by coherence. I'm your host, Nicole Ward, Senior Vice President of Sales at Aon, board-certified health and nutrition coach, wellness geek, biohacker, and founder of the Sales Athlete platform. Each week, I get to sit down with industry leaders, elite performers, and trailblazing biohackers to uncover the science, strategies, and daily practices that fuel sustained success at the top. It's not just about pushing harder, it's about recovering smarter, thinking sharper, and performing better. Our energy is our edge, and this is your playbook for high performance from the inside out. In our locker room today, I am really excited to welcome Todd Vande Hei. Todd is the founder of a Southern California-based healthcare company redefining what it means to practice medicine. At the heart of his mission is a shift away from reactive pharmaceutical-dependent care and toward a proactive model that's grounded in root cause healing. His clinics integrate advanced diagnostics like DEXA scans and comprehensive lab work with primarily non-pharmaceutical interventions, including strength training, nutrition, lifestyle optimization, and stress management. Before launching into the world of health optimization, Todd served as president of a carpet manufacturing company under the Dixie Group, a publicly traded firm. His tenure in manufacturing sharpened his leadership, operational rigor, and appetite for calculated risk, skills that later fueled his frustration with the siloed, symptom-chasing medical system and his drive to build something radically different. A bold critic of conventional medicine's over-reliance on prescriptions and quick fixes, Todd champions an integrated, systems-based approach to care, one that treats the human body as an interconnected whole. He believes true health isn't prescribed, it's earned through daily habits, emotional resilience, and alignment with one's purpose. When he's not leading his team or dissecting lab results, you'll find Todd out hunting, kite surfing, or geeking out on the science of peak performance, always in pursuit of deeper truths about the body, the mind, and what it means to live well. Todd, I'm not only so excited to have you here today, I'm excited to pick your brain, and just I'm in awe of your background, and so appreciative that you'd spend time with us. I'm lucky enough to say that I've been to one of your facilities and was just blown away by it. So thank you for making the time to be here.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be here with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, tell us a bit more about sort of your path and how you've come to be the founder of Stark. Tell us about your journey.
Okay. Well, as you stated, I was in manufacturing. And when I talk about my background, of course, people are shocked. Like, what does that have anything to do with health? And if the fact of the matter is, it probably had everything to do with the opposite of health, which is very helpful. Like I was so broken physically, and I would say psychologically and emotionally too, that I became an expert in recognizing the damaging effects of poor quality health. And I didn't know it at the time, of course. I was in my mid-30s. I mean, my self-awareness was hardly developed at that age as a young man. But the experience of destroying my body and then going down the traditional medical system's rabbit hole and becoming more, I would say, thoroughly broken, and then being exposed to some individuals in alternative medicine that seemed very kooky to me at the time. One example is a young chiropractor who was just maybe a year out of school. I went to see him because he was dating my sister, and I was about to have shoulder surgery. And my baby sister said, "You should go see my boyfriend." And I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit, honestly. And because I'm just really afraid of surgery, I decided to go ahead and schedule the appointment. So I went and met with him, and he was just sort of feeling around my bicep. I had a problem with an impingement in my right shoulder. And he said, "Oh, this is the problem right here. You've got a bunch of muscle adhesions in your bicep." I'm like thinking to myself, what are muscle adhesions? Does he even know what he's talking about? He's a kid. I saw 3 orthopedic surgeons. They all said I needed to have surgery where they kind of shave the bone down so it clears the joint and removes the pain. He explained that through that surgery, it'll just be recreated because the things I was doing to create it in the first place, I was still doing. And effectively poor quality strength training. And he said, we just merely need to break up these muscle adhesions in your bicep, and it'll lengthen your bicep, and it will stop pulling your shoulder up into the socket. And when it lands back in the place it was designed to be in, the pain will go away. And so I was super skeptical, but again, fearful. So I said, fine, how long is this going to take? And he said, about 60 days. I'm like, okay, this is great. Like, this is not going to happen, but I'm going to do it anyway. My sister's going to be happy. I'm supporting her boyfriend, which ended up being a long-term relationship. It didn't work out, but it was a long-term relationship. And he actually did it. I was so shocked. I was so amazed that this young chiropractor was able to fix a problem that I was going to have surgery for. And I was so angered by it, and talked to him later and wondered, well, how can this even happen? How can these sophisticated medical doctors that spent so much time in school and are so revered, and I respect them for sure. They do a lot of great things for the community, and they're very important in our lives. But in that one circumstance, it could have, at the very least, put a Band-Aid on it. Mm-hmm. At the most, it could have caused additional problems. And it was all fixed. And that was kind of like the beginning of if you imagine my perspective of the medical system was a bunch of medical doctors up on pedestals.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, the pedestals started getting some cracks. And that was the beginning stages of Stark. This is way before it actually happened. Then I got fired from my position in manufacturing, retired, had a bunch of real estate, just continued to expand on that and managed it. And then in the 2008 crisis, lost everything. It took a couple of years to lose everything, actually, because it's quite a lot. But it's expensive and difficult to lose everything. But I was very successful at that. And in that process, I remember I was standing in my jacuzzi, and I was in the throes of a midlife crisis too. So I had hair about like yours, like long hair, and the ocean breeze was blowing through my hair, and I was thinking, this is it. I was battling depression because my identity was really wrapped up in the successes that I'd had, and I was losing them. So I felt like nobody would respect me any longer, that my position in the community was gone, that my purpose was evaporating, and I had to take care of my young family. And my BlackBerry rang on the side of the jacuzzi, and it kind of vibrated, and I picked it up, and it was a strength coach by the name of Brad Davidson. And Brad was in a similar situation as me. He had a business that he was operating. It was about 2010 now, and he was about to fold. It was just a small independent personal training gym. And he described what his business was all about and asked if I would help him. And I told him, I'm applying for jobs. So when I get one, I'm going to leave. We'll probably have to leave the state. But in the meantime, sure, I'll help you. And I went and met with him, decided it would be a great partnership to form, which was the craziest. I was not sane, right? He had no business really. He didn't even have, the accounting wasn't even done. It was a checkbook, the big business checkbook.
Ledger, oh my gosh.
and I'm not being critical of him. This is a very common, ma and pa type business.
Sure.
All of his sort of like employees were independent contractors, and it was just a messy little business that didn't have any assets really. A small handful of clients, and then he had friends of his that were renting space that were also independent. And so I decided it would be a great idea to form a partnership, but if we did it, we had to create a brand, and we had to create systems and enable for things that occur in manufacturing, like quality control, supervision, things that don't generally happen in fitness, particularly in personal training. They also don't really happen that much in medicine.
Right.
I didn't recognize it at that moment in time. So I told him, well, we're going to have to expand. We're going to create these systems, operational systems. There's going to be standard checks and balances. We have to create a system for accounting as well. And so I went to work on the general ledger and essentially put together a business in a little tiny package. And I fought the landlord to get out of that lease. We moved, let go of all of his friends, which was very rocky. But as a turnaround specialist, which I had done in my past, when you step into a new business where you don't have relationships, because you're not emotionally wrapped up in them, it's not that hard to have someone look at you with such anger, because you're just blazing through and you're trying to save the business. When you're in the business and then you have to turn your own business around, it's much more difficult. Yeah. So I would just put all those things in place, And we moved to Irvine and opened up the first Stark location, which is German for strong. And the name came from the fact, I don't know if you know this, but most of the most effective strength training protocols and strength training exercises originate in original Eastern Bloc countries. So Russia, East Germany, Romania, Hungary. And so I went through a search of those languages for words that originated in those languages but were relevant to us. And Stark is German for strong. That's where that name comes from.
I love that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
So that was the beginning. And it was a miserable probably 5 years of just trying to figure out how to operate this highly competitive business. And at the same time, learning about how the human body actually worked, because I was really, really in the dark. Our first slogan was in 2011, "You optimized," and it was very apparent to me what that meant as I started to kind of experience what it meant to be in a body that actually operated the way it was designed to operate, merely by cleaning up training protocols that I didn't create myself, the team did, and nutrition plans that they put me on, and I started to feel like I was designed to feel, the systemic drop in inflammation, chronic migraines that just disappeared, and headaches 4 or 5 days a week that just kind of went away. And I was just astounded at the power of basic things like sleep and exercise, nutrition, if done well, and didn't even know what well meant at that time. I was just kind of following the plan. So we're in those early stages, and in 2012, I don't know if you remember this, but there was some new research that came out that indicated that red meat causes cancer and heart disease.
I remember it.
Do you remember
well.
that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. So these headlines started popping up, and we had Stark students come to me. Actually, one of them is, I don't know if you know Christian Lanella. He's the publisher for LA Magazine.
I don't.
Okay. At some point, you'll probably meet him through our overlapping network. He's a great guy. I've known him for many, many years, and he's in our ecosystem. He went to see his primary care physician, had a physical done, and he came back to me and he's like, well, my doctor said I look great, my labs look fantastic, but that if I continue to eat the way you guys are telling me to eat, which was a lot of red meat, that I would definitely end up with cancer or heart disease. So I've got to change that. And then I had 3 or 4 other students come, and then a whole bunch afterwards. And they're all talking to their doctors, and the headlines are informing the doctor's decisions. And I kind of had a freak out moment because I was eating like that too. So I went to see my doctor. I'm like, am I going to die? Like, I feel great. I feel like I'm on this upswing. I don't know how high it's going to go.
We all went through that.
Yeah, I didn't recognize it, but in my world, it was such a big part of the value proposition that Stark provided that I started questioning everything. Well, maybe I'm not strength training properly. Maybe my partner doesn't really know what he's doing. And got my lab results back. They looked squeaky clean like everybody else's did. So as a result, and my doctor telling me that my total cholesterol, which was 207, was borderline high, and if it goes any higher, he's gonna have to put me on a statin. And I don't know if you know much about cholesterol, but my HDL was like 80. So my LDL was really quite low.
Right.
My HDL was like off the charts. It was like lots of high quality foods and fish oil and things of that nature.
Right.
I mean, I was in a great place.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that I'm borderline sick. So I looked up at him, and he was also trying to encourage me to start eating Fiber One cereal at night, and shared the research that indicates that if you eat Fiber One cereal on a daily basis, your cholesterol will come down because there's so much fiber in it. And it's wheat.
Yeah.
And so here I am,
Gluten bombing.
no headaches and joint pain, no more feeling like an old man because of the lack of gluten in my body.
And then
he's telling me eat gluten.
Yeah, gluten
and
bombing
I
yourself.
told him that. I'm like, I can't eat that. He rolled his eyes, and I said, look, I'm confused now. You are obviously an expert, and I didn't know that he wasn't. He's a medical doctor, family practice doctor. But at that point in time, I thought he was the expert. I'm like, will you speak with my nutritionist, Brad, my business partner? And we have a training program designer. I'd like you to speak with him too. We have a chiropractor as well. I'd like you to speak with all of them. And I want to hear what you guys have to say about my labs, so I have a greater sense of what my direction should be. Because I don't think I believe you, but I don't think I believe them either now. Like, how do I find the right path?
Right.
And he refused. He refused. It makes sense. He didn't have a way to bill for it. It wasn't in his system.
Right.
But he refused to do it. He's like,
so.
look, you can take my advice or not. This is what I recommend. You come back in 6 months. We'll rerun your labs. If your cholesterol's higher, we're going to put you on a statin.
Oh my God.
Blah, 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 blah.
Nightmare.
So I got back. I showed my labs to Brad. He's not a medical doctor, but he looked at me. He's like, your labs look amazing from his perspective, his non-licensed perspective. And in that moment, I decided.
And sorry, I have to ask you, were the inflammatory, like homocysteine, CRP, like all that stuff was low?
It was all perfect.
Great.
My triglycerides were like 40.
Super low. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, I didn't know it at the time, but it was like the ideal patient.
Right.
And I was mid-40s at that point. So there's no cause for alarm whatsoever. There's no indication that I should have been on any meds whatsoever. I shouldn't have been alarmed. He should have said, man, you're doing great. And that should have been the entire conversation. Whatever you're doing, keep doing that. Mm-hmm. There's nothing in my labs that would have informed any other opinion. So in that moment, I decided, well, I'm just going to take what exists in every business, except for apparently fitness and medicine, and put a team of specialists together that are trained differently, that see the world in a different way. Much like when I was in manufacturing, when we were about to launch a new product, which was a couple $1 million endeavor, maybe sometimes as cheap as $500,000, but sometimes upwards of a couple million and even more. So it was a risky proposition. We do it several times a year. And the higher the success rate, the more successful I was as the leader of the business. So at some point in time, I grabbed the CFO and the product designer and the operations guy who is an engineer, an expert in what the equipment can do, the guy that headed up the lab, and put them all together, and someone from the sales force, sometimes a couple of people from the sales force. And we debated whether or not that thing was sellable, whether it was manufacturable, whether it was going to be profitable, what it was going to do to the brand long term. And they all saw the world through different lenses, but had the same purpose, which was to increase shareholder value because it was a publicly traded company.
Well, it's essentially what a board does, right?
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. It's a SWAT team 360-degree approach, right? It's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it exists in every business.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't thinking like I was innovating. I was just like, well, let's just take that idea and stick it over here.
But in healthcare, it's incredibly innovative.
It is,
it's
which
brilliant.
shocks the shit out of me.
Right.
That when you take my work product at that stage in my career was the carpet like that's on the floor, and I knew everything about the product. Our work product is the human body, and we don't know everything about it. What percentage of the human body we even understand is debatable.
Yeah.
And so if you consider that, how can you not have a team of experts that see the world through different lenses for the purpose of taking this work product from where it is to where it should be? The answer is you cannot. And so it seemed like a very, very simple concept to me to put them together. And I just thought, well, I'll just, place an ad and start interviewing medical doctors and nutritionists and everybody else, and they'll just bring them together and hire them and put them into this pod. And in the center will be the Stark student, which is our term for patient and client. And they'll debate with the student present or digitally, or face-to-face without the student, bring the student in when necessary. And the student informs the team, like, this is what I want. I would love to get here in 6 months or 5 years or whatever it is, whatever they wanted, right? And that team then would collaborate like we did in manufacturing to figure out how to actually deliver that. It seemed really basic, like a basic concept. I just didn't realize that no one in those two industries wanted to work with anyone else because it's difficult. They didn't want to have conflict. Like one MD would not want to have conflict with a nutritionist. They tend to sort of look down at them like, oh, you're not a medical doctor.
Right.
Or a personal trainer or a strength coach having a conversation about strength training with a nutritionist can be kind of clunky. Then you throw in a chiropractor or a physical therapist and it gets clunkier. They love the insular control that they have over the patient. And because as soon as you bring someone else in and you have argument, you have friction, you have emotional issues that you face within and among the team, and it starts getting difficult. It's the community approach is harder. And I didn't think that through because I was so used to it. In every business I'd ever been in, there was always healthy, debatable conflict that was intended to either improve shareholder value or improve the value of the business in total, improve company performance, or earn bonuses and things of that nature. But in this space, it was just like so unappealing to all of the prospects that we were trying to recruit. They didn't want it.
It's fascinating.
Yeah,
right?
they didn't want it. And so that became the first barrier. I was like, dang. They would say they want it. They'd step into the ecosystem. They'd start throwing elbows, protecting the relationship, kind of shit talking. Can I say that? To their
Absolutely.
to their cohort, like trying to develop more credibility with the student relationship, and it got really messy. They didn't know how to operate in teams.
Well, what's the solve for that? Because I think if we're focused on the product, what you're saying, which is a human being, and their whole bio-individuality, if we're putting them first, our theory, our theoretical orientation, if you will, our medical lens through which we're seeing things has to come second. So how do you
in
solve?
an ideal world,
Right.
it should come second. But all industries, I think, have some defined culture. Like, Silicon Valley definitely has a culture, right?
For sure.
You go to the South and you go through manufacturing plants. There's definitely a culture there that overlaps all the different businesses. And the culture of medicine and fitness is just very, very siloed. And I didn't know. Wasn't aware. I wasn't like fully developed. I was naive, perhaps. And it wasn't that people were telling me, let's go I want to interview you or interview with you. I would interview them and they wouldn't tell me, I would love to come work at Stark, but I don't want to work in a team. They would never say that last part. They would just be like, I'd love to be a part of this. This sounds really exciting. And then they would get in and they wouldn't operate like you need to operate in a team, which is totally different, right? And they didn't know how to do it. And so then I realized, well, we need to create a culture that is only attractive to people that actually want to operate in teams.
And collaborate.
Yeah, that really are passionate about what we do and how we do it. And that was the next step of the development of the company. That was like 2013. We cleaned all that up and realized at that point we had a very small team. It was like 9 or 10. And I realized that half of them didn't fit in the culture that was defined by those core values and the mission statement that sprung out of the culture. So then I had to kind of clean that up, and which is very painful in that size business, as barely getting by. And then we added new people and had to clean up the interview process. So it brought the right people into the business that fit into the culture. And we're still refining that today. Like the people challenge has changed over the years because it's a 15-year-old business now, as the culture around working has changed. Because it's changed a lot. Like post-COVID, it's nearly a completely different landscape. So now we are what I originally envisioned. It was so much harder to pull off than I thought. And the funny thing is if we weren't in the business of human optimization and I wasn't the recipient of those services, I don't know if I could have weathered it. I don't know if I could have handled the stress associated with creating something that was new and the antithesis of what the traditional medical system is made up of, because of the energy and the stress and the conflict associated with it.
Do you get the sense that what you've created and the direction, the space really that you've created rather, and the direction you're headed is replicable? And I don't mean that to create competitors for you, but that you've hacked through something, pardon the pun, to create really an example of what's possible. And do you think that there's, from a scalability standpoint, it's the ideal in my mind as someone who is a biohacker, who loves the idea of going to a one-stop shop where I can do a hyperbaric chamber, and then I can go do a drip, and then I can go do a, maybe it's a medicine ceremony of some kind, and then it's work out and then have a SWAT team of doctors that are just literally looking at me from a 360-degree perspective.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome and ideal, right? But is it scalable based on your experience thus far?
It's absolutely scalable. If a culture can be scalable, like look at a company like, one of the most valuable companies in the world, Apple,
right.
up in
Amazon,
Silicon Valley, or Amazon, or any of them.
Yeah.
They have a very defined culture, and that culture enables them to perform like that in and among their competitors.
Right.
And our culture informs our ability to operate in teams. And so, yes, if a competitor reached in and grabbed our culture, which we talk all about, it's on our website. You can go check it out. You have to be able to execute it well, and that's the real magic.
Right.
And the differences between an organization like Apple. Like if I grabbed their core values and applied them to Stark, and I didn't execute as well because maybe I didn't believe in them, or they were just something that a sign that was hanging in the HR department's front office, it wouldn't land. It wouldn't turn into Apple at all. It would turn into something like far shittier, right?
Right.
And so that is that team approach, which is enabled by the core values. Sure, it can be replicated by anyone that is determined to learn about it and turn it into something that's real. And those core values enable us to expand as well. Yeah. So I think that as like RFK Jr. being in the White House and shining a light on things like functional medicine, and I mean a lot of things are changing inside the United States now that it's very strange to hear someone in Washington use my words. It's bizarre because it was such a battle to get here. But as that's happening, more and more competitors will step in because it's going to become easier, and it's an industry within an industry that's being created, and that means that the things that we struggled with, which are like operational systems, like software to provide the background of the organization to run the organization, still doesn't exist, and so we've had to kind of piece it together with duct tape and spit wads. And that's all going to become far easier. So that will enable competitors to jump in. It will probably make it less expensive to provide the services that we provide. Large language models would do the same. But it won't be what we do unless they operate in teams. And so interestingly, there are competitors in Los Angeles that if you land on their website, it looks like they're doing the same things that we do.
And they're not.
And they're not. It's the team approach that is not there. If they added the team approach and they have all these features, well, sure, that's going to be a lot like Stark. But that's the special sauce. That's the difficult thing to create.
Right. No, I get that. No, what you're solving for and the way that you're doing it is genius. I am familiar with some of those competitors, and they're not even close. Yeah. And so before we pivot into other questions that I have for you, I would love for you to give a quick plug on Stark and what people could actually experience and all the cool things that you do, because I think it's really worth stating how special you are and how it's not like so many of the other, again, alleged competitors out there who are not even close to what you do.
Okay, well, so if you think about health optimization and longevity, there are foundational things that have to be in place in order for you to leverage the benefits of new technology that comes out. Like plasma exchange, for example, which I think is really exciting. That's not what we do. We do foundational things, so lifestyle, exercise, nutrition, stress management, and hormones. Those are the things that need to be in place so that if you have something like, stem cells injected into your knee or whatever, that you don't recreate that freaking problem all over again, right? Like you drop your inflammation, you start sleeping better, you become stronger, you've got sex hormones on board so you can actually recover. You're doing the things that you needed to do when you were younger now, and then you get younger in your knee joint from that therapy, you get to keep it. And so that needs to be in place. That's what we do. That's the most difficult thing because we can't do it to you. Like we can't show up in your kitchen and feed you like I fed my babies once upon a time, Cheerios. I wouldn't have done that today, but we can't feed you. You have to feed yourself. We can't prepare your breakfast. You have to do that. So that's the difficult part of what we do and what is so magical about it as well. And so the process through Stark is to chip away at how you live your life in total and just slowly over time course correct it nearly 180 degrees. And when you come out the other end, you are probably not as type A personality because you recognize that your thoughts inform your physiology and you start to chill out a little bit. You don't accomplish less, you probably accomplish more. You sleep better. Your body composition is exceptional, so you're super sexy. And it's not just body fat, but you have muscle in the right areas, which is very hard. Like you've got youthful glutes and you've got a small waistline and your skin looks phenomenal. And again, you're sleeping well, and so your outlook is rosy. These are all foundational things. That's what Stark does primarily. We do tertiary interventions as well, like IVs and things of that nature, exosome IVs and things that are really quite powerful if they're laid over the top of those foundational things. That's essentially what we do.
Yeah, it's just, it's fantastic. And again, having been to your facility, it's so impressive.
Thank you.
So I'd want to go back to, because this is a focus in terms of our audience on sales executives and elite performers of all kinds, really, but especially, corporate athletes that are out there.
Yeah.
And you spent a lot of your career working in a very corporate circumstance. And, and I wonder, when you were starting to hack yourself, if you will, and trying to figure it out, what were some of the real world examples of things that you implemented either with yourself or your team that started to move the needle on your own health in your professional life?
It's a great question. When I reflect back on my previous life, when I was the president of the company, so I was in sales. Before that, I was in sales. I could have been so much better. I was good. It was just through sheer effort. It could have been almost effortless. And I could have been so much more dynamic and so much more persuasive. And I think funnier, more attractive. All the things that are important in a sales organization and in a relationship between the salesperson and the person that we're trying to get to buy from us, right? I didn't have any of those things. It was just raw effort, really. It wasn't until I started Stark that I started implementing the things that my team told me to do. And so the first thing that was the most powerful was just cleaning up my diet. And it was, back then it was mostly removing gluten and eggs and dairy and sugar. And I didn't know I had the kind of cognitive ability that I almost take for granted today because it's been a long time. Back then, it was like a new thing to me. It was so shocking. It wasn't just the absence of things like the headaches. It was the presence of energy throughout the day. There was no food coma like in the afternoon that I used to always have.
Right.
I didn't need another cup of coffee at 10 a.m. It was, and I didn't even recognize I didn't need it. It was just, I got through the first couple of weeks. I'm like, oh, I'm not sleepy anymore. Like I can focus all day long. So if you think about things like cognitive ability, focus, influence, human connection as really important parts of a salesperson's career, those can spring out of a healthy body. And you have to fight for those if you don't have a healthy body. So nutrition played a huge role. Focusing more on sleep. I'm in the same generation as you probably, where you'll get enough sleep when you die kind of a way of thinking. And I know that's very antiquated today. When I started Stark, it wasn't. But I was told you need to start sleeping more. And that was a hard thing for me to change at that point in time because I just tried to grind through it and be strong and demand that from the people that worked in my organization too, which was terrible for them. And in hindsight, didn't enable them to perform as well because their job is to influence decision makers. And you have to be influential, which means well-rested and all the things I just described.
Absolutely. Shameless plug for my book that's coming out soon, which is Biohacking for the Sales Athlete, Optimize Your Health to Transform Your Results. And I make so many of the points that you just shared. I spent a lot of time really exploring in the book because we are raised to grind it out, to push ourselves, not sleep, late night networking, over drinking, different time zones, sleeping in hotels poorly. And we would be far better in terms of our results if we showed up to that 8 a.m. meeting the next morning, cognitively prepared, with nootropic supplements, et cetera, watching circadian rhythms, all the things, right? So I agree with you on what you're saying. It's just like, oh my God, I could have been so much better.
It was a giant blind spot for me. I just wasn't even thinking that it was something to think about, to try to do.
Absolutely the same. Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that so much. And in terms of, when you think about the real hacks and wellness habits that have made a big difference, you said the first thing was your diet, which I foundationally absolutely diet and sleep. But are there certain supplements or maybe tech, rituals or protocols that you have that really stand out as things that you deploy on the regular that are a pillar for you?
Yeah. There's a couple of supplements I can talk about. There's one called ATP 360, which is there's sort of like the nutrients that your mitochondria needs to produce energy. And so I take massive amounts of that. So I know that my mitochondria has everything it needs. So I'm as good as I can be from an energy standpoint. That's the first thing, minus the issues I have with sleep, which is a bit of a problem for me. The other one is krill oil, which is obscenely expensive. There's little capsules that are about $1 a piece, and I take 4 of them for breakfast every day. I actually always look a little bit red, and I don't get sunburn, which is kind of weird. I look like I'm sunburned, but it's because of the krill. It's a very red. It's what pelicans.
Oh,
The pink
flamingos.
Flamingos.
Yes.
That's where the flamingos get their color.
I take krill, but I don't think I'm taking quite as much as
It's
you.
it's kind of a lot. It's kind of a lot. But it enables better cognition too. So I feel sharper, more energy, more focus. So as a sales professional, that's really important. So both of those two supplements are my absolute favorites.
Yeah.
So I would recommend anybody go and check that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of, when you travel, be it for work, personal, et cetera, what are some of the hacks? So many executives that I know and sales professionals are crossing time zones. It's challenging.
It's rough.
So what are the things that you do to stay on track while you're traveling and use in those situations?
It's a great question. First of all, depending on the time zone, as soon as I get on the airport or in the airplane, I adjust for the new time zone. So if it's in the middle of the night, I try to fall asleep. When I get to the hotel, I bring electrical tape with me, and I take little tiny pieces, little squares of electrical tape, and I put them on every little red dot in the hotel room. I must drive the housekeeping people
Nuts.
crazy
That's great.
because nothing works. Like you can't turn the TV on with the remote control.
Right.
You can't see anything inside of the room.
That's great.
And I put like a towel by the door if there's any light coming in. Pull the blackout shade so it's like perfectly dark. Turn the AC down to 65 if I can. Sometimes it only goes down to like 66. Get it as cold as I possibly can. And I use a white noise app on my phone. So those three things enable me to get as close to my home, my bedrooms that I have at home, as possible.
Yeah.
And it helps with the sleep, which is so critical for a sales professional. So that absolutely happens. I also try to get sunlight as soon as I land, if it's daytime, to try to readjust my circadian rhythm. I eat massive amounts of protein for breakfast, which is really hard to find. So
Especially clean protein.
It's
when
very
you're in a
difficult.
hotel.
It's almost impossible to get clean protein. It's difficult to get a lot of protein at any hotel. So I make sure that the hotel I'm staying at has a buffet with a lot of protein. And I eat like 60 grams of protein for breakfast. Lunch and dinner is a little bit questionable sometimes, but I make sure that I'm protecting that one meal and making sure I'm getting as much as I possibly can.
And do
That
you
tees me up.
travel? Sorry, do you travel with like your own protein powders or any sort of essential amino acids or anything to sort of amplify what you're able to
I
get?
don't travel with protein powder. I'm not a huge fan of protein powder. We have our own protein powder, but I prefer to eat food, and so I try to stick to that regimen. But I do travel with a lot of jerky, all different types of jerky.
Yeah.
Just make sure that they're clean, they don't have a lot of sugar in them,
Totally.
that the soy that they use is gluten-free, and that provides another like 15 to 30 grams of protein in a lunch or a dinner that I don't get enough at.
And what about sleep supplements? Do you take anything for sleep or?
I take a lot of things for sleep. I've got a great melatonin product that I take every night. This is not a supplement, it's an actual pharmaceutical. It's progesterone, which is very bizarre to most people to hear me talk about how I take a lot of progesterone. Like if you looked at my lab results, my sex hormone lab results, you'd be like, what the hell is wrong with Todd? And progesterone works on the GABA receptor and helps you really calm down. Women that go on hormone replacement therapy, including
Guilty.
progesterone.
Yes, I take it.
When that gets regulated, you start sleeping really well.
amazing, yeah.
It happens to work with men too. And so that's one of my favorites. I don't use it every day. I use it like Monday night through Thursday night, and I give myself a break. I find that with a lot of sleep supplements, your body tends to adapt to them and they stop working. So I try to create gaps. If I'm going on vacation, for example, I don't take them just to give myself a little bit of a break. But if I'm traveling for business, I absolutely make sure I'm on that too.
Yeah.
So those two things, melatonin and progesterone, are my sleepy
great.
time supplements. Yeah.
Love it. And in terms of working out while you're traveling, do you take bands with you? Do you, just hit the gym that's there? What is there any sort of an app that you use?
It's a great question. When I travel, for the most part, it's personal. It's like vacation because my businesses are all local. Until we expand to out of state, like we're looking at Scottsdale right now and Nashville potentially, I'll have to travel a lot more, and I'll have to integrate those. But there's going to be a Stark location there, so I will just go to Stark. Right?
Yeah.
That's not going to be an issue.
Totally.
When I travel for fun, unless I'm gone for an extended period of time, I generally don't do any strength training. I take a break.
Got it.
And I make sure that while I'm local in one of the Stark facilities, I train at least 4 days a week in the gym with weights.
Yeah.
So I don't have to bother. I just kind of relax about it. I do some cardio, maybe 1 or 2 times in a week, and I make sure my steps go from like 12,000 steps a day to 15. So I just walk a lot more. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It's part and parcel to my ability to regenerate when I'm taking a break, which includes taking a break from strength training. But I don't take a break from moving. I just keep on doing that because it's just so critical to being healthy as a human.
We all have to move more, right? And incorporating that is huge. Great. And in terms of when you think of, if we pivot a little bit to tools, right? Gizmos, gadgets, those sorts of things. What are some of the things that you use or that are part of your protocol? I mean, whether it's an Aura ring or ultra human ring, whatever the thing is that, or, things that you're using on the regular, hyperbaric, et cetera. Any suggestions there?
Yeah. I mean, I love wearable devices. There's so much better than they originally were. Like I started tracking my HRV 15 years ago when you had to put a polar heart rate monitor on, use an app. And I had this thing that slipped between your mattress and box spring from this company in Finland. And it would pick up the dog's heart rate and my wife's heart rate. And it was kind of a messy. So it's gotten so much better and so much easier. I think that I don't think you can go wrong. They're all quite sophisticated. They're not perfect, but the information over time is very helpful. So I've been looking at my HRV for years. I think that's very important for sales professionals to do that too, because it just gives you a sense of how you're handling your stress and whether or not you need to sleep better or more or whatever. Well, I think everybody should be pursuing that anyway, but it can throw up a red flag if you're using a device and maybe you're not paying close enough attention. So those devices are really important. I love hyperbaric chambers. I don't use them often enough because it's not convenient. We don't have them in Stark locations, but I do use them periodically. IV therapy is fantastic. One of the most expensive things if you're in sales or you're an executive and you're making a lot of money is to be sick. And so one of my favorite therapies for getting the sense that maybe you're getting the flu or maybe COVID version, whatever, or some form of sickness is to get a high dose vitamin C IV. There's one little speed bump to getting there, and that's making sure that you don't have a genetic predisposition to dying from a high dose vitamin C bag. So anything over, I think, 10 or 12 grams can be dangerous for like 5% of the population. It's about a $12 blood test. So if you came into Stark and we ran panels on you, you wouldn't even know it, but we'd be putting that in your chart. It's just a standard operating procedure. It's been there for 10 years.
Amazing.
Because it's super cheap and we can save people's lives with it. But even more commonly, we can prevent them from losing work time. So they recover very quickly. So 25 to 50 gram bag of vitamin C is really, really powerful to fight nearly any virus.
Yeah. You bring up so many great hacks and ideas. One of the things I've struggled with for years, I mean, literally 13 years ago, I was thinking about how do I aggregate across all my data, right? And I was meaning, right now I send it all to ChatGPT. I'm like, here's my Aura Ring results for the last 5 years. Here's my diet, literally my log, my diet log for the last 5 years. And can you tell me about me, right? Here's my lab results. And I've wanted for so long for someone to sit on top of all of my data and actually give me some discernment, some advice, some insight. And I was recently at Dave Asprey's Biohacking conference a couple weeks ago in Austin, and there were 2 companies doing interesting things with this. One called Be Well. They're meant for MDs and practitioners, and they have a way of going across everyone's Aura Ring, Apple, all the tools, and gleaning from that to then help the practitioners support their patients in a way more effective way than getting my login information to 5 different tools and devices, right? And then there's another company that Dave Asprey interviewed on his podcast while he was there called Nilian, and they're actually they're actually solving for this in a massive, like a meta way. So I think both are really interesting, but to, kind of what you're solving for in your facilities, which is really aggregating all the things for someone and giving them that holistic view of themselves. it's wonderful. And and I think for, selfishly for us, as we look at these tools and devices, it'd be really nice if someone could, again, put it all together. So
Yeah. It's today, well, we're on the cusp of it becoming really easy. Today, inside of the Stark ecosystem, we use the wheel of health as our concept.
Yes, say more about
it's
that.
quantified.
Yeah, so
So
interesting.
there's 10 spokes that essentially make up all of your health. One of them is body comp, for example, and gives you a sense of how they work together. Let's imagine that your ideal body composition is, as a female, 10% body fat, and you're like, that's all I care about, and you get to 10% body fat. What happens is that your cardiovascular health may be impacted, your sex hormones will be impacted, your sleep will be impacted, your nutrients, like your micronutrients on board because you're not eating enough, are going to be impacted. Your strength will plummet. Your bone mineral density will drop. You'll step off of curb when you're 60, break a hip, and you might die in a year because you were at 10% body fat. Nothing in your body works independently, and that's the concept behind the wheel of health. So we have to know, if you're at 10% body fat, how is your strength? How are all the other spokes doing?
How are you thinking?
Yeah. Is everything working really well?
Yeah.
And some people can be there and be in a very powerful state, and others completely collapse. Like their mental well-being is a big one, especially for women. When they get too lean, they absolutely lose it because your bodies are designed to not be that lean. And so you push beyond what our bodies were designed to be, and your body's fighting you back, trying to create a dim outlook of the world so you stop moving so much. You become depressed because your body's trying to keep itself afloat, trying to survive. So the wheel of health is a very powerful way in which to look at your body, because you learn over time how to pull a single lever, like exercising in the right way with the right amount, not too much, and have it expand the wheel in total. So your body comp is exceptional, but so is your strength, so is your cardiovascular health, so is your mental well-being, so are your hormones, so is your sleep and your recovery and your stress management, so is your detoxification pathways and your gut health. And you have all the nutrients on board to perform at a high level. And your orthopedic health is exceptional too. That's a balancing act. And the only reason we have to balance it is because we don't use our bodies the way it's designed to be used. Like we're hunter-gatherers, walking around outside, moving a lot, not aggressively, every once in a while running really hard away from a lion or to chase a wild boar or whatever. We don't operate like that. And we have access to all the food we want, all the things we want to consume, and not move off of the sofa. I mean, all the little robots driving around delivering Uber Eats or whatever, and where I live, it's just ridiculous. You don't have to do anything. And so we have to measure today, because we don't actually have to do anything, because we don't know how our bodies should be used in this modern environment, because we just have access to everything to create an easier life. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So the data is only important for modern humans. Like if there's some catastrophic event because of AI or whatever, which is, maybe going to happen, and we're all knocked back into the Stone Ages or something, we don't need Oura rings.
No.
We're going to go outside, and the ones that survive are going to hunt. We're going to get lots of sunshine, and we're going to bond. We're going to be in a good community, which is why we survived. We're everything we need to actually be healthy and flourish, at least physically. Yeah. Maybe if the food is there.
Yeah.
So it's just different.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I do. I think, as a wellness geek, there are so many times that when I'm looking for those feedback, loops, right? And like that, information to give me, guidance or awareness or understanding. But it is absolutely, I'd like to think, balanced with my own sense of intuition, right? And my own sense of the spokes in the wheel, and are they balanced, right? So that the
balance
wheel
is the important
rolls,
thing.
right? As opposed to, something clunky, right? So I love that concept of the wheel of health. I love that. I know you're also, and I know we're getting close on our time here, so I want to be respectful, but, when you think about what success looks like for you, apart from financial metrics, we'll set that aside, but like when you think about what success is for you, do you see yourself as a success, and how is that shaping up for you?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think, at my age, I don't see success in the same way as I did when I was a lot younger. It was purely the money in the past. And money can be earned in a million different ways. So I kind of look at that like sort of a too simplistic of a way to look at my life. I want to, this is tied into with Stark's mission, I want to express through my own behavior and accomplishments what it should be like to be inside of a human body. And that I am not genetically gifted, that I didn't look anything like this. And it's possible for anyone. And so it's sort of a professional and a personal mission. And I want that while making a living. I don't want to sacrifice that to make a living, enabling others to experience this. I think that there's so much confusion in the world that a big part of why I feel a sense of importance is because I can exhibit what a goal looks like and thereby shine a light on the processes that are necessary, I think, for all humans to land in an optimally healthy place. I also think a lot more differently about my responsibility in the community. So you probably are a little bit aware of Stark's charitable giving and our annual competition, the Stark Naked Challenge. And we also have one focused on glutes in the fall, which is a very, very different, way harder undertaking to actually develop glutes. And it's we're not going to get into it here because we run out of time, but it's a very important muscle group for longevity. Not just aesthetics.
It is, and it's hard.
Yeah, it's very,
I work
very
on it
hard.
all week, every week.
It's very, very hard. There's a lot of strategy that has to go into it. So we have a competition like that in the fall, and we'll benefit a charity then as well by going through that process. We'll take pictures and we'll post about it. And the idea is to show that small businesses like Stark can also make a difference in the community. So we want to sort of, lead the way for other small businesses and recognize that it also helps our business. It's not just altruistic in nature. It actually shines a light on the business. And people are like, well, what is this? What are all these people in swimsuits, online, what is all that stuff? Well, she's 60 years old. She looks amazing. What's going on? And they may own businesses and they may think, well, we should probably do something for the community as well. Because when we impact the community positively, we'll benefit from that. The money goes into the community. Young people are raised in, for example, not in a foster home, but they're adopted. It's one of the charities that we support called Adopt Together. And they will grow up in a healthier situation and get a job and pay taxes, buy a home and have kids and raise them well, rather than ending up in the penal system or something else that's really horrific.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of power that businesses have. And this second go around for me, I want it to be more impactful than just making a living. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it sounds hugely impactful. And so, as we wrap it up here, I'd love for you to share the things that you're involved with. I mean, obviously the charities and the wonderful foundations and such are amazing, but, I know you also have a podcast, and, where can people find you? Where can they follow you? And where can they, if they want to become members of Stark or, maybe they live in SoCal or some of your future markets, give us all that.
Yeah, so the company website is stark.health. You'll find all the information on everything that we do there. If you want to...
And sorry to interrupt, is there a remote component to that?
Oh, yeah. We do services all over the country.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, some people come in and get tested here. Some people get tested locally where they are.
That's wonderful. So accessible to anyone. Love it.
Yeah. Most people don't recognize this, but in my opinion, the most valuable thing that we do is not coming in to the facility and getting your blood drawn or getting an IV or getting a DEXA scan or getting a training appointment done by one of our strength coaches. It's the plan itself. It's the team getting together and designing the plan, which includes exercise, nutrition, stress management, hormones. And you can do that stuff on your own. It does take some community and some discipline to pull it off, but you can do an amazing job, like 80 to 90% of what we're able to do in our facility anywhere in the country.
Amazing.
So that's one. If you want to just follow me and see literally what I'm doing right now without a lot of polish, you can go to my Instagram account. It's testosterone, TESTODDERONE.
That's great.
Some call me the Quad Father.
Quad Father.
I've got a bunch of
love
nicknames,
it.
but testosterone is my handle.
Testosterone. Quad Father.
And it became that
Love
because early on, today, testosterone replacement therapy is very common. 8 years ago when I started, 7 years ago when I started, it was like taboo. And I was posting all over, injecting myself, talking about it, explaining what the experience was like, recognizing that the forefathers of TRT and HRT were so right. And so much of the medical community at that point in time believed it was going to cause cancer or heart disease. So I was kind of banging the drum back then, and that's where that handle came from. You can also find me on TikTok, same thing, and Stark.health on Instagram.
And then your podcast?
Oh, the podcast, Health is a Skill.
Health is
a Skill. Yeah, you can find me there too. Interview a whole bunch of people that maybe are in disagreement with me, that are aligned with me in terms of how they see health, but trying to expose the Stark community to as much as I possibly can in terms of new ways of thinking. And it's really designed, everybody can join in there, but it's designed for the Stark community. It enables me to connect directly with them in a detailed way. I'm not able to do that otherwise. So that's the primary purpose. So when you're listening, you are listening with thought leaders, billionaires, highly successful multimillionaires in all ranges of professions, from lawyers to entrepreneurs and engineers and everybody else.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I literally could sit here and continue to pick your
Me
brain
too.
and have conversation.
I'd love to talk to you more.
Absolutely. We'll have to do it another time as well. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your passion and for solving the things that you're solving for. It's genius, and it's heartwarming as well as amazing on all levels. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.